Okay. Ever get that kind of creepy feeling when you hear about another one of those big data breaches? Like, oh, that's bad. But then, like, how bad is it really bad?
Right.
Today, we're going to look into some of the priciest cybersecurity breaches ever. The numbers are pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's wild how these breaches, they show us the technical stuff that went wrong, but also like a ton of economic and social problems that come after.
Yeah.
We're going to get into like what happened, but also why you should care.
All right, so let's start basic.
Yeah.
Companies lose money, right? What else makes these costs so huge?
Think of it like dominoes. There are lawsuits, fines from the government, and then this thing that people don't always think about, like reputation damage. Losing trust, that's a hard thing for a company to come back from.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the specifics, like, how do these things even happen? Is it all like super hacker stuff, or are there more normal ways?
Some are like straight out of a movie, but a lot come down to really basic weaknesses. Like phishing. Someone clicks a link that looks real, but it's not. Then there's the whole inside job thing, like unhappy workers or someone just messes up and leaks data. And of course, there's always that problem of software that's not updated, like leaving the door wide open for hackers.
Okay, so it's like human mistakes mixed with tech problems. Let's get to some real examples, starting with one that might bring back some memories. Yahoo.
Oh, Yahoo. Back in 2013, 2014, they had this breach, like massive. It hit 3 billion user accounts. That's almost everyone on the planet back then.
Wow. It's a lot of accounts. What happened after that?
They said it cost them $350 million, and that actually messed with how much Verizon was willing to pay for Yahoo. Shows you how a breach can hurt you for years.
Ouch. All right, next one's probably hit a lot closer to home for people. Equifax. In 2017, they were like a credit score company, right? Kind of ironic.
Yeah, right. It's almost too perfect. They're supposed to protect your info, and then boom, they get breached. 147 million people affected, social security numbers, birthdays, addresses. A hacker's dream.
So their whole thing was about trust, and then this. What was the damage, like money-wise and everything else?
Over $4 billion in damages. But the bigger thing is it really shook people's faith in companies that hold our data. If a credit reporting agency can't keep it safe, who can?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I bet a lot of people listening are thinking that right now. All right, let's talk about a breach that might make you think twice next time you're shopping. Target, back in 2013.
This one, it shows a weakness a lot of people forget about, how everything's connected. Hackers got into Target not through their main computers, but through their AC system.
Wait, their air conditioning. How?
It's about security for everything, Any system can be a way in if it's not locked down. For Target, it meant credit card info, personal stuff, stolen from 110 million customers. Cost them $162 million.
So strong passwords aren't enough. You got to understand how all these systems talk to each other and where the weak spots are. Okay, time for one with some Hollywood drama. Sony Pictures, 2014.
This one was different. It wasn't just about money. They think it was North Korea payback for that movie, The Interview, the one that made fun of their leader. It shows how cybersecurity is tied up with politics and world events.
So, like a cyber attack, but for political reasons. Almost like digital spies. What was the cost for Sony?
About $100 million. Shows that even when it's not about stealing money, the costs can be huge.
All right, now let's talk about Marriott International. They had a breach that went on for years. It's like a slow motion train wreck.
Right, this one was from 2014 to 2018, 500 million guests. One of the biggest, priciest breaches we've seen, over $1 billion. The fact that it went on so long just shows you some attacks are super sneaky. You got to be watching all the time, not just reacting.
So hackers were just taking data for years and nobody knew. That's unsettling. We've talked money, but what about the bigger effects? This is stuff that keeps happening after the initial damage.
That's where it gets really interesting. For companies, it's about trust or losing it. Customers might forgive a bad product, but a data breach, that makes them question everything. Hard to come back from that.
Right, it's like finding out your favorite store's been selling your info behind your back. Makes you wonder about everything. But what about regular people? Like, what risks do they face after a breach?
Oh, it's real. Identity theft, losing money, and that feeling that your info isn't safe. It can feel like someone's invaded your privacy, and that sticks with you.
And for the whole cybersecurity world, are there lessons from these huge breaches?
Definitely. It shows how the industry is always playing catch up. Fix the problem after it's happened. We need to be more proactive, stop things before they happen.
Like predicting what hackers will do, staying one step ahead. Okay, so far this has been kind of depressing. Let's end on a positive note. Is there anything we can do, like as people and companies, to stop these breaches from happening in the first place?
The good news is a lot of these could have been stopped with some basic cyber hygiene. You don't always need fancy, expensive solutions. Sometimes the simple things make the biggest difference.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. There are things we can do. We'll get into those practical tips and strategies in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
So, we've seen how bad these breaches can be, but what can we actually do about it? It's easy to feel like, oh, these hackers are so smart, what can I do? But honestly, there's a lot we can do to protect ourselves.
Okay, I'm listening. Lay it on me. How do we not end up as another statistic in a data breach headline?
First things first, gotta have strong passwords. And I know it sounds obvious, right? But you wouldn't believe how many people still use the same weak password for everything.
It's true. You want to make it easy to remember, but that also makes it easy for hackers to guess. Any tips for making passwords that are strong but you won't forget?
Think phrases, not just single words. Put a few random words together, throw in a number, maybe a symbol. Way harder to crack than password 123.
That's a good one. Okay, so passwords. What else can we do to be safer online?
Think of your computer like your house. You wouldn't leave your doors unlocked, windows open, right? Software updates, those are like patching those holes. They often have security fixes, so they're protecting you from, the stuff hackers already know how to exploit.
So don't ignore those little update pop-ups. It's like a free security upgrade. What about just like everyday things we can do? Just be more careful online.
Be careful what you share. Everything you post can be used by hackers. Think twice before you put your address, phone number, that kind of stuff out in public.
Right, less is more. Smaller digital footprint, less for them to steal. Okay, let's talk about something that's a constant threat. Phishing, those scam emails and stuff.
They're getting really tricky, yeah. But there are signs you can look for, like check the sender's email really closely, hover your mouse over links before you click, and never give out your info just because some email or text asked for it.
If it feels weird, it probably is weird. Better safe than sorry. And if you're ever unsure, just contact the company directly, right? Make sure it's legit. Okay, so we've got passwords, updates, phishing. What about antivirus software? Is that still a thing?
Totally still a thing. Think of it like a bodyguard for your computer. Always watching, blocking threats, keeping you safe from malware and all that bad stuff.
24/7 security guard. I like it. Now, what about public Wi-Fi? It's so convenient, but is it safe?
Public Wi-Fi is kind of a risk. It's easy for someone to set up a fake network or grab your data if it's not secure. If you have to use it, don't do anything sensitive like banking or shopping.
So no online shopping sprees at the coffee shop. What can we do to make public Wi-Fi safer?
Look into a VPN, virtual private network. It's like a tunnel for your data, encrypted, so harder for hackers to snoop.
So your own little private internet, even in public. Good tip. And it's not like you do this stuff one CE and you're good.
Right.
Right. You got to keep learning about the new threats and scams.
Exactly. It's a constant thing, staying up to date. The bad guys are always coming up with new tricks, so we gotta adapt.
Okay, we've talked about personal stuff, but what about companies? What can they learn from those big breaches we discussed?
They need a mindset shift. It's not just an IT problem, it's a business problem. Everyone, from the top down, has to care about this.
So it's not just having the best tech, it's about making sure everyone in the company understands security.
Right. Invest in training, check for risks, test their systems, have a plan for what to do if something happens.
Be proactive, be prepared. Don't just wait for the disaster. Okay, it sounds like companies need to do better, but for us as individuals, what's the big takeaway from all this?
It's that we all have to be part of making the internet safer. We have to learn, be careful, and take those steps to protect ourselves and our information.
We can't just expect companies or the government to take care of it. We're responsible too.
And remember, this isn't like you learn it once and you're done. It's a journey. Always learning, adapting, and being responsible for our digital lives.
I like that. So we've looked at the dark side of data breaches, talked about how to stay safe online and how important data privacy is. But before we finish this deep dive, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Think about this. In this world where we're all so connected, cybersecurity isn't just a tech issue anymore, it's a society issue. It affects our money, our politics, our freedoms. So as we figure out this crazy digital world, we got to remember it's on all of us to make it safer.
That's a powerful message. On that note, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking about those scary cybersecurity breaches, the crazy costs, and how they can really mess with people's lives.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up, what are some things people should remember? Like the big takeaways here.
Okay, think about this. Even the best security tools, the fancy tech stuff, it's all useless if you don't use it right.
Right, like having a top-of-line alarm system, but you leave the front door wide open.
Exactly.
People make mistakes. That's still a huge weakness. It is. That's why learning about this stuff is so important. Keep up with the latest scams and threats. There are some really good resources out there, like the FTC website, the National Cybersecurity Alliance, and CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Yeah, those are good places to start if you want to learn how to protect yourself. They give you practical advice, everything from how to secure your home Wi-Fi to spotting those phishing emails.
And here's another thing to consider. As AI and machine learning get more advanced, cybersecurity is only going to get more complicated.
It's like a race, right? The good guys and the bad guys always trying to outsmart each other.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that. That's why you got to stay ahead of the game. Be proactive, learn about new tech, and never stop learning.
So you don't have to become a tech whiz overnight, but you got to have that attitude of like always learning, always adapting.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't a one and done thing. Cybersecurity is a journey. It's about being aware, being careful, and taking responsibility for your digital life.
Well said. So we've seen the dark side of data breaches, talked about staying safe online, how important data privacy is,
Yeah.
all that. But as we finish our deep dive here, any final thoughts for our listeners?
In this digital world where we're all connected, cybersecurity isn't just a tech problem anymore. It's a problem for everyone. It affects our economy, our government, our freedom. So as we figure out how to live in this crazy digital world, gotta remember, it's on all of us to make it safer.
Powerful stuff. And on that note, thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We hope you learned something and got some tips to navigate this kind of wild digital world.
Yes.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe online.